I have decided to watch all 11 Muppet films in one day. Is this possible? The Muppet burnout was becoming real. Was I taking this too far?
And it is Muppet O'Clock.
Muppets, the definitive version and ultimate form of a puppet. Muppets have been around for several years and are still relevant and extremely iconic still to this day, with the same iconic characters being heavily featured in each and every single TV show and movie. With the Muppet filmography spanning at 11 films, 8 of the films released in theaters, with the remaining being released straight to DVD or straight to television. I like to call myself a Muppet aficionado, someone who is, well versed in the Muppet universe, is aware of the popular songs, has seen the original TV show. However, I've only seen 3 of the 11 Muppet films. 4, if you're counting the legendary prequel Kermit Swamp Years, which off of a technicality we can't because it's not a Muppet film. So that's why this week I'm planning to transform myself from a Muppet aficionado to a Muppet maniac. And so that's why for this transformation I've decided to watch all 11 Muppet films in one day. Is this possible? I don't know. Let's find out. Has anyone done this before? I don't think anyone is willing to try, except for me. And so the goal of this experiment is to kind of, well verse myself into the Muppet world and see the similarities and differences that the Muppet films have, because it's this wide universe spanning from 1979 to 2014 with multiple different creators and different production companies. So I want to see what's staying the same, what's kind of being different. And so this documents the start of my journey. So stick around for the grand ultimate Muppet adventure of a lifetime. So I decided to start the Muppet Marathon at exactly 8:16 p.m., giving me time to sleep normally and hopefully finish the marathon by tomorrow night. And kicking off the marathon, going in chronological order of release dates, was the Muppet movie. And just seeing Kermit's smiling face, it just filled me up with glee, Like this marathon was gonna be fun. And away we go. It is a movie that feels very Muppet-like it has the classic charm. It feels like it's the show, definitely. There's a lot of great little gags here and there. The first hour, I think it just feels like a lot of setup. Having Orson Welles be the guy that makes the Muppets famous in this movie is kind of crazy, and I kind of applaud this movie for doing so. I think the story itself didn't quite hook me, just because there's nothing crazy going on. It's more of just a fun little road trip movie. I did enjoy it though, but I'm gonna be giving it 3 out of 5 stars. Next up was The Great Muppet Caper. Ooh, a classy detective movie with the Muppets. That sounds like fun. So I decided to indulge, sit back and relax, and have some fruit punch in my classy glass to celebrate the start of a new journey ahead. I think this one is the funniest Muppet movie throughout the whole marathon. There's just funny little gags that caught me off guard, like the newspaper manager being friends with this Kermit and Fozzie mashup Muppet is so hilarious. It definitely felt refreshing compared to the Muppet movie where there's not much plot. This one has a plot, and the pacing of the film keeps it moving for sure. Definitely has the Muppet charm. There's a lot of physical comedy in this, and there's just a bunch of great gags. Gonna be giving it a 3.5 out of 5.
I've awoken, and it is officially Muppet O'Clock. Time to get the Muppets going.
And starting the morning off right, I watched the Muppets take Manhattan. As the day was starting, my quest was continuing, and my tired brain was questioning if this was going to be worth it in the end. This one is basically the Muppets are trying to become famous again. It kind of takes that whole plot, and there's not really much going on with the overall story. The Muppets are just kind of blindly optimistic in this film. Like, they're like, oh, like, let's go to Broadway, but, you know, we're kind of poor right now, so I guess we have to sleep in lockers. And they're okay with it. That's the beauty of the Muppets. They're okay with doing stuff like that. And it is more of kind of like a hangout Muppet movie until the end of the film, where Kermit goes missing. He gets hit by a car. He gets hit by a taxi cab, and then he goes to the hospital and suffers memory loss. He forgets who he is. And the Muppets are trying to get their show together, but they're like, where's Kermit? They're out looking for him. Apparently, Kermit thinks his name is Phil, and he starts working for a soap company with a bunch of other frogs. It sounds like I'm making this up, but I'm not. Yeah, 3 out of 5. This is definitely a movie that I do remember watching as a kid, maybe like once, so I don't have that much attachment to it, but I think it is a really good like Muppet movie on its own, but also a really great Christmas movie on its own. It definitely takes the spirit of the Christmas Carol and kind of revamps it. Has some goofy little like Muppets and Muppet jokes in there. There's the comedy that you would expect from the Muppet movies, and Michael Caine, surprisingly, is, I mean, not surprisingly, because Michael Caine is a great actor, but I guess didn't need to be this good in this movie because it's just like a Muppet movie, but he decides, he's like, you know what, I'm going to give a great performance. And he's great as Scrooge. This one, out of all of them, I do notice there's a lot more with the production design and cinematography from the last movies. There's way more movement happening with the camera that I noticed in this one, rather than more kind of static shots that we were seeing in the last few Muppet films. 3.5 out of 5. Yo ho ho, arr matey. Sorry guys, I was just, you know, doing that because it's the Muppet Treasure Island time. And even though I was enjoying this movie, as you can clearly see, the Muppet fatigue was starting to set in. 5 Muppet movies in, and I wasn't even halfway there. Did I know the toll that this marathon was going to take on me starting out? Was I too naive? Was I taking this too far? This one is definitely the most theatrical out of all the Muppet movies. There's a lot of like Dutch angle shots in this, which is kind of crazy to see, but it's still awesome. It is kind of featured on Gonzo and Rizzo the Rat, who Rizzo, he's kind of a Riz god, if you ask me. Throughout the Muppet films, he rizzes his way throughout the whole film, and it makes sense why his name's Rizzo. Tim Curry as Long John Silver is great too. This is another actor who didn't need to act this great, but he's like, hey, I'm putting in my all. 3.5 out of 5. After my Muppet mental breakdown back there, I thought it was necessary to take a Muppet mental health break. Kind of get away from the Muppets, and boy was I glad. My hands were tingling with excitement. I could feel it. It was freedom. The breeze on my side and my legs gliding along the trail, it felt like I was walking for the first time. The sun beaming down on me felt like a sign that it was going to be okay. I was taking in the beautiful scenery, the trees, the moss that was green just like Kermit. It was green like Kermit. Green like Kermit. Green like Kermit. Green like Kermit! And then I realized I hadn't seen Kermit in a while. Was he gonna be okay? So I raced home to see that iconic smiling face. Look at him, he's so happy. This one was definitely a more refreshing pace for a Muppets movie. This being my 6th Muppet film in a row. I was kind of tired of Muppet movies that are about like becoming famous, or Muppet movies that kind of just have the Muppets acting like goofy characters and it retells a story. This one is more of a hangout movie. The Muppets kind of just chill out. They all live in this one house. It's very Gonzo featured, where Gonzo, he thinks he's an alien. He thinks he's a part of this alien race or whatever, and like he thinks he's communicating with aliens. I was surprised by the influences that it has in the film. It's definitely an homage to Close Encounters of the Third Kind. This one especially surprised me with the celebrity cameos that this one features. Jeffrey Tambor's in this one as well, and he plays the bad guy. There is a lot of him, and it does feel like it's a little bit too much. 3 out of 5. The Muppet burnout was becoming real. My energy was becoming drained, and it didn't help that the next Muppet movie that I had to watch, It's a Very Merry Muppet Christmas Movie, was really boring and pretty bad. This one was really boring to watch. Like, I was surprised how bored I was watching this film. It doesn't have the charm of the Muppet films. The Muppets just kind of act very like bitter, especially Kermit, where it's kind of the plot where he kind of loses the Christmas spirit and they have to fix it. Kermit's kind of like a little bitch in this one, like for no reason. This one has really bad jokes. Like, I was surprised. There's like an offensive racist joke in this film, like about Asians, which was like, really? Come on, guys. It's just a weird movie. I didn't really like it. 2 out of 5. And then was The Muppets Wizard of Oz, which starts out with Dorothy singing a banger of a song, which evoked my top-level dancing skills to come out. But as the day was dawning and the dancing was done, my body was weak. My mind felt numb to these puppet characters, now dressed up as caricatures of the 1939 musical fantasy. I need water. Yes, on paper this sounds great, but why was this happening? I need water. Why was I watching this? What am I doing? Seconds started to feel like minutes, and minutes felt like centuries. You know, in 2001 A Space Odyssey, when Dave goes through space and time and then he sees himself as a really old man? That's what I was going through. This one is a TV movie as well, so it definitely does not have the budget of the feature films, and you can clearly see that with the production design. It's definitely lacking. The CG is not good for today's standards, but I think even for 2005 standards, it was not good at all. Like, this is, I'll show you a real frame from the movie. Yeah, like, comment down below what you think, why they wanted to do that. I think the one thing that was kind of like mind-blowing was that Quentin Tarantino is in this movie at the end, where he's like pitching the movie that we're watching to a Kermit executive. It goes on for way too long, and it's crazy that he's in this movie. 2 out of 5. And then it was time to watch another Muppet movie, which was seriously another Christmas movie. So here's the thing that if you're a Muppet maniac, you might already know. A Muppet's Christmas Letters to Santa isn't a feature-length Muppet movie, it's 45 minutes long. And going into this video, I was researching every Muppet movie ever made, and this came up as a movie that was 80 minutes long. So I was deciding if it was even worth it to watch. However, on the day of making the video, I found out that there's a TV movie that was recently released called Muppets Haunted Mansion, a TV movie at 49 minutes long. So I was scared, you know, that the Muppet Maniacs would say that I missed out on 2 Muppet movies or something. However, I'm only watching A Muppet's Christmas Letters to Santa out of fear. And saying that I watched every Muppet feature-length movie plus 1 TV movie sounds a lot better, because I needed to feel fulfilled about this challenge. Yeah, and this movie wasn't even that bad. It was okay. You know, fun little Christmas movie, 2.5 out of 5. The day was almost to a close, and I had a couple Muppet movies left to go, and I was exhausted. The Muppet fatigue was hitting, but wait. The next one I was watching was the iconic 2011 Muppet film, The Muppets, a childhood favorite of mine. I was exhilarated, as you can see. The Muppet life was looking up for me. This one, by far, is definitely my favorite out of all the Muppet movies. I have the most, like, nostalgia for it, just because I was a kid when this movie was coming out, and I remember watching it as a kid. I was surprised by how well it holds up. Jason Segel, I was like, damn, like, he's actually great in this movie. And I forgot Amy Adams was in this movie. Like, that's crazy. And she commits to this. There's so many good songs that both the actors perform. The musical sequences are probably by far the best they've been, just in terms of the scope. And it's like, wow, they like put so much effort into this. This is great. It also felt very refreshing having a new main character. Like, Walter is this new Muppet. 4 to 5. It kind of starts off good. Like, I was like, okay, this is nice. It has good songs. You know, the introduction to, you know, Ricky Gervais and this kind of plot was interesting. It just felt like it went on for way too long. Having Kermit being separated from the gang, and then having this Constantine, you know, Russian Muppet who's like the most evil person in the world. It just felt like it was doing too much, but at the same time, it wasn't really doing anything at all. It just didn't hook me, and I think this being the last Muppet movie of the marathon definitely made it worse, where I was like, okay, I'm done with the Muppets now. So that was the marathon.
Okay, all done. Watched the 11 movies in like 28 hours, so technically a day. I'm done. I don't know what else to say.
So for a little recap, and if we remember, I started at 8:16 p.m. Tuesday night and ending it on Thursday at 1 a.m., which makes the challenge completed in 28 hours, almost 29. So it's less than 2 days, so I'm calling it 1 day. Didn't quite hit the 24-hour mark like you might have expected, but you know, I had to do it for the clickbait, sorry. My initial goal was to watch every Muppet film in 1 day because I wanted to become a Muppet maniac, but all I did was become a Muppet freak. Who spends their free time watching the Muppet movies in 1 day? I do. Without seeing the Muppets all day, I felt lost, but at the same time, I felt free. Initially, I felt angry at the world. I saw a green waste bin that was green like Kermit, and I thought of the waste that had been, of yesterday. But I remembered the friendly faces I saw, the songs we sang, and I felt glad for the time that we shared together. Because it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that you see Kermit the Frog for almost 17 hours straight. And maybe one day down the road, I'll see his smiling face, filled with glee, on the Jim Henson logo, and reminisce, you know. But for now, I think I'm good without him. I'm done with this challenge, and I completed it for the people. So are you happy?